This video is made for adult collectors because prepare for extermination or whatever the hell he says. I don't know. It's been ages since I've seen that movie.
Nah, we're not using that. We got Scrapper. He fell over. Mixmaster. He fell over. We have Long Haul. He didn't fall over. We have Scavenger. Let's make him look attached. We have Bone Crusher. And then we have Hook. Okay, maybe we do need this.
So I haven't had the best experience with Newage in the past, and I know one bad toy isn't the be-all end-all of a company, but the other turn-off to me was the prices, especially in Canada. Then the legendary Paragon Refugee gave me this Newage Omega. Dude, seriously, thanks. If you're at TFCon, I'm buying you a drink. But it made me kind of want to check out Newage again, and then TF Safari sent me Devastator. I wasn't that thrilled about the whole giant torso that does nothing, but after opening it and messing with the figures, it's very neat, especially for less than 200 bucks. Speaking of which, this was sent to me by TF Safari. They have a wide range of third-party and knockoff items on their website. Iron Warrior sold out again after that video, but hey, there looks like there's another shipment on the way, so that's good. And yeah, they have this dude on sale right now for $189, so you can check that out. I also recommend using the flash sales tab. Some pretty good deals in there. And if you use code THATTOYGUYSPECIAL 3% off, yes, you will save a bit on your order, and you know, every little bit always helps, and you'll also save it on the flash sale stuff. So thank you very much for sending this my way. Now back to the actual toy. I think the easiest way to start this off is to do these dudes in their robot modes. I wrote Ribot. I spelled it wrong. So here they are, all 6 Constructicons in yellow, because as you know, I love yellow Devastator more than I like green Devastator. That's a pretty cohesive team. Love the sort of industrial vibe this deco gives off. Mixmaster here has the upgrades attached, which, by the way, all of the upgrade parts come pre-installed minus the ratchets. They're on a sprue. But I like the look of the new legs for Mix here. The old ones were super thin and gappy, and these ones kind of feel like they belong more than the other ones. I do also dig the solution of the head shelf. Rather than have the head rotate inside the shelf, it's attached to the head, meaning he has a full range on his neck and he can be a little bit more expressive. Mine does have some pretty loose hips, but they're ball joints. I can fix that. Scrapper looks lush, but I have one major problem with this guy: the thighs. When you bend the knee, it bends the thighs first, then the knee, because they don't lock into place. That's the only issue I have, though. He looks and feels great otherwise. I love how it uses some of the really subtle yet easy flips and tricks to get that accuracy in check for such a small figure, and like little details like shifting the wheels and collapsing the teeth on the bucket. You can use the weird thigh thing and the compression of how he transforms to give him a double jointed knee to make him look a little bit more dynamic, which is cool, though it makes his thighs look really small. The shade of purple, by the way, is very nice, and the yellow is pretty not in your face, which is also nice. Hook, I don't like. And it's not because it's necessarily a terrible toy. It's fine, but it's just G1 Hook, I think, has always looked weird. His leggings with the ludicrous big shoe is such a strange design, and I've never been a fan of it. That and this guy is really limited just because of the combine mode and the accuracy and all that. But it captures the G1 look quite well, so I can't fault it for that. Now we get into my 3 favorites: Bone Crusher, Scavenger, and Long Haul. Bone Crusher and Scavenger are very similarly built, but they aren't the same toy at all. The way the legs work are the same, except for the feet and then the hips up. Everything else works very different to achieve a play value that feels pretty similar between the two of them, which is really neat. I will say their legs are a bit too long, but they're not terrible. Long Haul, though, he's never been my favorite Constructicon, but this figure is the best one of the set. He feels the most solid, and the way he forms his legs out of very slight shifting panels and stuff, it's super simple, but it's very satisfying. His knees work a bit strange. You gotta move the wheel out of the way to get a full working knee, but that's fine to me. He's also the most dynamic looking, even just standing there. I love it. They all have tiny ass pistols. I feel like I'm gonna lose or inhale if I walk past the shelf while breathing, so I'm gonna put them in a baggie that they came in, and they fit so well with modern core stuff, because I like when they're a little bit bigger than the rest because of the size of the vehicles they turn into, and they're a tad bit taller than most of your standard core class toys, so that's neat. I think my favorite to least favorite, though, is Long Haul, Bone Crusher, Scavenger, Mixmaster, Scrapper, excuse me, and then Hook.
So each one of them, move them over here. And there they go. Each one of them has like the standard articulation stuff we've come to expect nowadays. I'll go over it on one of them, but then each figure has its own quirks and weirdness to it. So I think a good base move is probably Scrapper. And there he goes. So the standard stuff that they all share is they have a ball joint at the head. They can all swivel and all that sort of stuff, except for one. We'll get to that later. Shoulders can do a full 360. They can go in and out. You have bicep rotation, wrist rotation on some, not all, waist rotation. You have the hips can go forward. They can go back. They can go in and out. Thigh rotation. Bend it at the actual knee. There we go. Bend at the knee. And then ankle tilts. Now, Scrapper's heels don't really sit flat. You have to like move them down a tiny bit, and then they work. Like he's stable on them, like he'll stand. But if you have them pushed ever so slightly back, and then you have him stand up straight, he'll fall over. So that's a bit annoying. But that's Scrapper. He knocked everything over. So Bone Crusher and Scavenger are a little bit weird in their lower bodies. They share everything on the upper body, except they both have ab crunches. But the lower bodies, they're the hips. So because the hips go into the treads, they can move forward and back, and they can go in and out. But there's no swivel in the middle, so you go forward, and then you want to move the leg out, and it does this. You have to like rotate it at the thigh swivel to get it to go out that way, and then bend the knee. It's like trying to use a Y-jointed hip. I don't know how else they could have done it given the size, other than maybe making them ball joints, but that would have been really like fiddly to mess with. Especially considering, at least for Scavenger here, these become like structural to the combined mode and holding him on to Devastator. Yeah, the hips are a bit strange, but they do have double jointed knees. They have crazy ankle tilts, both of them, and Bone Crusher's feet can go forward and back. So that's their little quirks. Then we have Mixmaster, who is honestly pretty much the same as Scrapper, except he has an ab crunch and slightly more interesting ankle tilts. That's pretty much it. He doesn't have wrist swivels, so that's pretty much it. Then we have Long Haul, who has all the stuff I mentioned, wrist swivels, opening hands. He also has an ab crunch. Then he has double jointed knees, but if you don't like the way that this looks, which I personally don't, you can move the wheel out of the way to get the leg to go all the way, and that works perfectly fine. He also has crazy ankle tilt. Now we get on to the worst one, Hook. So again, from the legs up to here is all standard. I'm giving you the finger, I'm sorry. Legs up to here, all standard. Arms, all standard. He does not have a waist joint. They didn't put one on. He has an ab crunch, and his head doesn't move. That's it. That's all you really get out of the head. And all the pictures, I watched Emgo's video on the green ones, and he's also like, yeah, the head doesn't, it doesn't go. I don't know why they did that. The collar sits a bit too high and the head is too square, and I feel like the collar should have compressed down a little bit to allow for head rotation.
So as little robots go, they're great. They feel like updated G1 toys, kind of like how Generations is doing toys nowadays.
So unlike some other third-party Legends companies or other things Newage has offered, for example, these are more so deluxe engineering at something this size. Not that much like more complex than it needs to be, which I like. They're really fun and easy to remember, except for his legs. There's a specific order of operations with the new legs, and I'll show you that. But we'll start again with Scrapper. So with Scrapper here, we're gonna make sure the hands are folded in, and then you want to compress the arms like that. Then we're going to flip up the teeth. There's like little grips back here you can roll your finger on to get them to come out. It kind of makes the silhouette of the teeth look nicer if there's no big tab sticking out. So I like that. We're gonna bend that back. We are going to then take the entire torso and shift it up. Then you're going to shift the chest plate up. It's going to cover up the face, rotate it. The legs are neat. You have this like entire hinge assembly here. You fold up the heels. You open this up and you look at this hinge and you're like, oh, that's going to be complicated. So you take this hinge here and it will collapse in like this, and then in like this, and then you bend the knee down, bring the foot up, close this panel up, and that's the leg collapsed. Then you want to attach the legs together. Now this peg doesn't like staying together on mine. Very, very gracefully and gently, not so much, snap them into place. Then shift the wheels down, flip up the canopy, and that's Scrapper. Long haul's easy. You compress the legs by moving this up and in. I love the way that is so simple. Love the way that works. These are also die cast, don't know why. Peg the legs together, flip up the torso, flip down the head, push this section forward, and then you want to bring this up like that. You want to then collapse the arms in on themselves and rotate them around and they will slot into there. So once you have that all lined up and pegged together, you want to take this entire top assembly, fold that section up, and bring this over, and it will peg in to the back. And then you bring the wheels down, and that is the dump truck. So with hook here, we're going to open these sections up on the side of the arms, fold out the hands, or open the hands, I should say. Rotate this, compress the head, bring this section up. We're going to take the legs here. We're going to open this all up. Series of hinges here. Rotate that 180. Fold these over, and they will just sort of hug the alt mode. And then you clip these flaps into the tabs there. Collapse this down. And that is hook. Yay, we did it. Bone crusher time. Bone crusher's legs are pretty neat. You want to start by folding this out, opening this up, rotating this, bring it in, rotate it down, bring out the yellow, close that up. That's really cool to just hide the leg away. I love it. You can use them as feet if you really want to. You open this section up. You want to take this little panel right here, fold it open, push the head through that, close that panel back up again, and then open up the shovel. Take the arms, bring them forward like you would the G1 toy. Bring this down, shift the hips out, rotate them, and they will peg into the side and into the shovel. Bring up the canopy, bring up the driver's seat, and that's the bulldozer. Scavenger's legs are completely different in transformation because you bring this out, rotate this around, fold this 180 degrees, and then it will peg into the knee. Then you bring the fists, you fold them in. Then you want to take the torso and you want to shift it out and down. Take the bucket, move it, take his head, rotate it 180 degrees, fold it in, take the arms, bring them around like that at the ball joint, then rotate at the bicep and compress them, and they will sit in here. Then you bring this entire assembly down and you peg the feet into the chest, flatten it out, bring up the canopy, and that is Scavenger all finished. There we go, Scavenger all finished. Mixmaster and his funky ass legs. Bring the mixing drum up, and you want to open the mixing drum up like this, and then bring this out, close that up. Don't extend that, that's for combine mode. Now take the torso and pull, and it will come up, and then the mixing drum will peg in to there, and that's basically the back half done. Then we're going to collapse the arms. Open that up, bring the foot, fold it up, open this section, rotate it 180 degrees, get that panel out of there, and then just bend the knee, close it up, peg this together, and that is your Mixmaster.
Those are some really nice little vehicles. Like I went out to my local shop, Comic Alley Toys, not sponsored, to get a G1 Mixmaster, Scrapper, and Scavenger so that I could like put them next to this. They were $5 each, so I was like, why not? But these are roughly a similar size to the G1 dudes. Like they're a little smaller, but I love the way that works. They also look really cool together. The level of detail on these guys, especially for the size of them, it works very nicely. And every single one says like Newage Hephaestus on them, which I think is kind of funny. They're just driving around with their name on the front. The vehicles that are articulated can, well, articulate. The dump truck can dump. The digger can dig. The front end loader can front and load. The crane can crane, and the bulldozer can bulldoze. Mixing truck can't mix, but given how it transforms, I'm okay with that. I just dig. Dig. I just dig the size the most. And the alt modes are so solid, nothing wants to fall out. It's nuts. Now let's just get into the thing everyone wants to see.
So the reason I wanted to start in robot mode, other than I like the robot modes, is because to combine them, they have to be in their vehicle modes. That's basically the easiest way to do it. So we're going to prep the torso first. So to start with, what you're going to do with the torso is you're going to take these little clips right here and open them up. Just going to pop them open like that. Then you open up this section here, and that's the torso pretty much prepped and ready to go. Let me just straighten it all out. So with Scrapper, it's pretty easy. You just bring this up. The pictures have you fold away the teeth, so I'm going to do that. You bring the arms down and you collapse them in. Bring the arm down, collapse in. Now, he doesn't really have much of a heel, so to speak. Like, he's a high heel, but there's no back section there. So what I do is I rotate these 90 degrees so the hands are sticking out. So when he stands, he's kind of flatter. So he's got more base. Mixmaster is a little bit different. You want to unpeg the legs, bring this entire assembly out, fold this out, bring the foot down, fold this back out and up like this. Then this section is going to peg into that little gap right there. So you do that, then you bring it down, and then we wait for the other section. So once that's done, you then peg this entire face together, make sure everything's lined up, and then it will peg into the crotch flap up there at the top. And once all that's lined up, you got your ankle tilt, we're going to then take this section and bring it up and leave it. I also forgot to mention this foot right here, you have to compress it a little bit. You have to fold this up first and then compress it. Compress, there we go, down to size. Now, you bring in the dude, you want to split this open ever so slightly so that you can shove that into there, close that up, and then this will just plug into here, and then this will plug in to act as a support, and those are the legs. That's the legs attached. Mixmaster has heels, so you want to flip out the little heel spurs. That way he doesn't fall over. Now he's standing up proper. So the arms are easy, you just plug them in. Bone Crusher, you have to make sure his head is completely centered. You want to fold this section up, and then you take him and he'll just plug in to the arm right here, and the head will fit through that little black square there, and that's Bone Crusher attached. Scavenger requires a little bit more work, but like it's fine. You take this entire assembly here and you unpeg the legs, right? And we're gonna bring them forward just a little bit. Now they're gonna hug these two pegs right here. So you bring them and you sort of move that around that. The crotch is going to plug into there. And then the front of the digger is going to plug into the big peg that was in the arm, and you just sort of fold that up. Now we're gonna do long haul, which requires you to activate this section of the ab crunch. You bend it at the hips, and that's it. That's it. So you take him and you'll slot him into here and he'll peg in. So you can get him in. Come on, there we go, peg in. And then this section right here will tab into the bucket, and then you close this section up, and that's long haul attached. You pull them and then you rotate the fists 90 degrees and you fold the fingers in. And then you slide this section, you pull this out, you slide this section that way. You bring it together and it will all peg in. Then you have this hinge sticking out right here. It is very specifically sculpted right there for the hinge to sit in place. So you have to make sure everything sort of lines up perfectly. Get it all lined up proper. Then you bring the head up, and then you want to take these sections, bring them in, clip them back into place. Bring them up and in and clip them back into place, fold that down. And that is combining Devastator.
That looks cool. Proportionally, I'm not the biggest fan of the slim nature of the limbs, but it does work for this design, and then when you get it in a pose, you kind of forget about it. The combiner using a massive brick to combine into works well for the size of the limb bots. I don't think it would have worked trying to get attachment points and hands and feet out of these smaller figures. It would have really compromised the smaller toys, and this is like the only way they think they could get around it. So that's why it doesn't really bug me that much. I will say Long Haul's integration is a bit strange. Plugging him in means the ab crunch is now one joint rather than two, because when you activate it, the chest plate shifts up and down in a very specific and interesting way. But now with him plugged in, it's just one joint, and you don't get the cool chest action unless you unpeg Long Haul as you activate the second joint, and then he starts to fall out, and it's kind of annoying. So pain. But one funny thing though is you can remove Long Haul and then still have an entirely complete Devastator. And since Long Haul is my favorite, that's what I do, because I just mess with Long Haul. He stays on my desk and Devastator goes on the shelf. The hands are big mitts, but they work really well with the proportions of this design. I love the head. There's a visor that can fold in and out, and alternate faces which aren't painted, but the standard one I like because it's silver, it matches. He does come with replacement ratchets and these things. So you have to undo all the screws the thigh panels just pull off, and then swap out the yellow pieces for the gray ones, and now you have hips that don't do the dreaded stock straight or has to pee thing. They give it more detents. The other rings are friction joints if you don't want ratchets, but I personally am going to use the ratchets. The gun takes LR41 batteries, which for some reason Amazon hadn't delivered yet, so I don't have them, but they do light up, so that's nice. I do like the silver they use on this guy. It helps sell the industrial look of the whole thing because it is yellow. The drills are supposed to peg into the hands, but I didn't get the pegs. Like, they just weren't in my box of the figure. I don't understand. I guess they just forgot to put them in my figure. That's fine. I wasn't gonna display it with the drills anyways.
Now, Devastator's articulation is extremely good, but there's a couple of problems with like his stability, I find. So the head is on a ball joint, but it really only can rotate. You can't really get that much of a wiggle waggle out of it, but it's fine. Shoulders, both of them can do full 360s. The chest plate can move out of the way to accommodate that. They can go out that far, but they do bump into the, see? They do bump into his head. We'll talk about that in a minute. You do have an ab crunch down here, and if, like I said, if you want to unpeg mix mat or long haul, you get a secondary ab crunch. So there is that. Peg in, there we go. No, now the whole thing's come apart. He has a waist joint. You have bicep rotation, elbow bends that expose pistons when you bend them, wrist rotation, wrist hinge, and then there's every finger is on 2 joints, even the thumb. The hips, you have hip skirts that can move out of the way to accommodate. Legs can go forward, they can go back, you can go in and out. You have thigh rotation. You have a bend at the knee that does like a Gundam armor thing. See that? The armor shifts. That's pretty cool. And then you have ankle pivot and ankle swivels on both sides. Now, the heels. Mixmaster's heels, they keep going. They don't stop where they need to. They're supposed to stop down here, but they keep going up. So every once in a while, if you don't have his heel proper, he's gonna fall over. So you have to make sure you really press that heel down and keep it standing, keep it stable, and that way he stays standing up. Because if it's folded, right, if you have it, there he goes. See, it's a bit strange.
So yeah, for less than 200 bucks, very slightly less than 200 bucks, I think this works quite well. It feels good and is a lot of fun to mess with. I like the paint and the durability, the way everything holds together. The articulation on all of the members is great, if a bit awkward, and then Hook just kind of sucks. But it is still loads of fun. It's up there, but like, I can see why it costs the way it does. But I do recommend it for someone who either A, wants Legends figures, or B, wants a manageable Devastator that can stand up without falling over. I'm looking at you, Gravity Builder. But that's my look at Newage Devastator. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.